All right, everyone, we got to start out today talking about Beto, aka Robert Francis, who, basically pretends, I guess, to have some distant Hispanic relation or something. We got to talk about that, but first, I know a lot of people keep commenting about me holding the microphone. I literally don't have the old tripod anymore because the tripods for these things suck ass, and this is a glass table, so there's nowhere to put the boom arm. I will be improving that setup, but I mean, fucking get over it. I used to hold the microphone like this all the time anyway. And watch, now I'm a handyman. Dad jokes are great. But, yeah, Beto O'Rourke came out the other day and called Netanyahu a racist and talked about his dismay for Israeli state policy. And I'm like, the dude's not entirely wrong, but it's like the broken clock thing. It's like when Ann Coulter comes out and says something that makes sense. Well, most of what she says is a bunch of spew that's probably designed to be satirical. And I've said that for a long time. It's very funny because a lot of the MAGA folks, they stopped liking her because she came out and started saying weird shit about Trump for no reason. Pointed out how dumb it was. But with Beto, you've got to understand that the sort of corner he's coming from with regards to Israeli policy is Netanyahu is right-wing, like an actual conservative in many ways, more moralistic. Some of it's inauthentic, and he is under investigation for fraud and crazy shit like that, but he's no friend to the idea of the diversity stuff. And he gets away with that because he happens to be Jewish, and he happens to be running Israel. The thing is, as far as U.S. politics goes, there are tens of millions of evangelicals in this country who fundamentally believe that Israel is a chosen state in the most literal and tangible sense. And for politicians, like if you look at Republican politicians, especially those old sway in the South, they kowtow to that a lot. What we're seeing is that certain elements of the left wing sort of here are breaking off from that. They're siding with Elon Omar. It's like Elon Omar said some dude the other day was like a white supremacist and he's Jewish. This keeps happening. Elon Omar, I mean, is somebody from the right wing paying her money just to sound dumb? Because at this point, it's even odds. I think there's a possibility that that's the case. Maybe the AOC crowd really are a bunch of buy-ups by the right wing to infiltrate the left and make them look crazy in order to destroy the left-wing vanguard of the New Democrats or something like that. But with Beto, calling Netanyahu racist, though, doesn't really make sense. That's prefaced on, well, Netanyahu wants a wall and he wants, basically a non-diverse state ethnically. I don't see, by the way, the problem with this. Like when I was debating Spencer years ago, I pointed this out. With the exception of the Americas, which was built out of a civic structure and had to create its own identity, the ethno-state is not itself problematic insofar as it doesn't have to be specifically abusive. The abuse of any Israeli policy that we see is primarily related to its interactions with its neighbors, specifically the Palestinians and the Syrians, not to domestic policy. Israel has other problems with regards to that, like the fact that it's massively high cost, it's massively high taxed, it's a relatively small, economically not that important part of the world that happens to be propped up because we use it as a gigantic base in order to create a staging area, a last beachhead to invade the Levant region if anything should happen there so that we can throttle the world's oil supply. That's really what it boils down to. It's part of the grand chessboard. If you think that the underlying basis of U.S. policy towards Israel is religious in nature as opposed to strictly military, then you've got another thing coming. There's a reason that they didn't immediately invade Israel when they stole hundreds of nuclear triggers. And they're like, well, we'll probably end up putting nukes there anyway, so fuck it, who cares? And basically, partner up with the IDF anyway. But Beto is a funny dude, because remember, he's coming from the angle of we want to tear down this wall. It's like he wants to replicate Ronald Reagan, but not be Ronald Reagan. He wants to gyrate around down there like a televangelist, waving his hands around and saying all this weird shit. And then he alienates himself from Jewish voters and stuff. I can see a time coming where the millions of Jewish voters in the United States, which up until now for a very long time have been overwhelmingly Democratic, may very well start to move in the other direction. Like if I were Jewish, like if I were ethnically Jewish or something, I would probably be pissed off at them. And it's not with regards to Israel. I realize a lot of Jews in the United States don't even support Israel. They had a rally of tens of thousands of Orthodox Jews not that long ago in Brooklyn, where they were talking about their feelings about Israel. According to the more religious doctrine, actually, Israel shouldn't technically exist because they're in breach of their covenant with God, and they're sort of in exile right now. The more pragmatic solution to why then it would exist is, if you believed in that religion at all, would be, of course, that the nation of Israel is currently governed by a government that is not, authentically, is not spiritually Jewish. Netanyahu, as far as I know, is not religious or anything like that. Beto O'Rourke, grandstanding about this is hilarious, because it seems like the young Democrats have found a new sort of culprit to blame their problems on, and it happens to be Jews, which is really funny, because then at the same time, if you say something offensive online, you're like a Nazi, and like everyone is racist and stuff. And Beto's even using that attack line. I mean, the irony is hilarious. The irony of modern politics is so funny that it almost detracts from all of the sort of, maybe like it's making people a little bit nervous, like a little bit too dystopian for comfort, but it's so funny on its face that it's like, it's almost a self-mockery. No, Beto O'Rourke. Beto's crazy. He also won't be the nominee. Hell, Buttigieg is more likely at this point. You've seen him have his heyday, I think, his 15 minutes of fame, and then he'll recede backwards, because the problem for him is he's not viable. Anyone who wants to tear down existing border structures is no longer a viable candidate. The national debate has carried that well out of the hands of the left, and they don't even realize they're the ones being left behind when it comes to it. For him to attack Netanyahu because of a wall, or, oh, he says that Israel should remain Jewish. Oh my God. Well, great way to solidify even like the neocon side of the right, with maybe even like the new right alt-light types or something on such an issue. Oh, you don't. So in other words, you hate border security so much that even this sacred cow that the U.S. government throws money at every year, even they should tear down their walls and just like live like Yoko Ono or something like that. I also noticed that people who talk about tearing down walls very often have very large fences around their properties. It just seems to be a trend. I don't know exactly what's happening, but yeah. Now, here's the other thing. Do I think that Beto O'Rourke is like a Nazi or anti-Semitic or whatever? No, he's being an opportunist. He's trying to score political points with a crowd of people that, by and large, his fans, are going to be younger, more liberal. A lot of them are like very pro-Palestine. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised. Think of it this way. If Beto realizes on a national stage it's a terrible idea, but on a localized level, if he's staying in state-level politics or going into the legislature, something like that, it's a real good move, because then you can pander to a core base of fans that is different from the national population. Whether he's in Texas or not, especially if he's going to be in an urban area, yes, that's exactly what he would do. This is actually the sort of thing I would expect someone to do on a national stage, knowing it's self-sabotage on the national stage, in order to go back into state or local level politics at some degree, and score points there, actually. So I think that might be what he's doing. The Beto thing, I don't think that they're going to get their next Obama, because anyone that eats magic dirt after they lose a Senate race, yeah, probably not going to be the greatest president. That's about all. Peace out.